While the foot soldiers were fighting the orcs, the mage soldiers sent blasts of fire down on them. Boom! Whoosh! The number of bigger orcs quickly went down. The shaman's cheeks shook with anger. How could this small human do this? It looked at Jinwoo, deciding he would be its first target. The soldiers wearing black armor had been called by that man. Once the man was gone, his army would also disappear. The shaman began casting a spell on Jinwoo. He chanted quickly. The song to slow down. The song to blind. The song to cause fever. The song to cause great pain. And the song to make you sleep. 5 strong curses were finished. Very quickly, and sent toward the enemy. It is done, the shaman said with a cruel smile. Jinwoo felt magical energy moving toward him, as soon as the curses were completed. Was this magic? Jinwoo and the shaman looked at each other. The shaman smiled at him in a mean way. It's too late, human. Unlike normal magic, curses were impossible to avoid. Once the spell was cast, it seemed like everything was over. They were going to turn him into a lifeless body, ready to be attacked by the strong orc warrior's large blades. It would be a terrible fate for someone who didn't understand his situation. But just then Jinwoo heard a familiar buzzing sound. A message appeared. Something unusual had happened. A special protection had removed a harmful effect. More messages quickly followed. One message said a harmful curse had been lifted. Another said another curse, causing blindness, was gone. 5 curses disappeared before they could cause any trouble. Jinwoo smiled. He was the one who felt good now. This was a special ability Jinwoo received when he first became a player. The great spellcaster Kandiaru's blessing, lasting ability, health and long life. You won't get sick from any disease or poison, and harmful effects won't work on you. You heal much faster when you are sleeping. Because of this blessing, Jinwoo didn't have to worry about magic that could hurt his body, like curses. What? The shaman trembled. As the leader of a powerful underground area, it quickly realized that its harmful spells had been removed by some unknown power. How could someone block spells created by me? It didn't make sense. To cancel out a spell, you usually need special cleansing magic or help from a more powerful magic user. Did that mean one of these people was a more skilled magic user than I am? Before it could think about this, a sharp pain in its foot made it cry out in pain. Argog. When it looked down, it saw a dagger stuck in its foot. Granted, it was Jinwoo's dagger, Night Killer. The creature looked up, very angry. How dare you? Jinwoo quickly attacked another orc, then quietly told the creature, just wait your turn. He meant, don't do anything sudden. The creature's face was very red with anger. How could someone so small? The shaman said. Still angry. Jinwoo's face became serious. He actually could have defeated the shaman at the start of the fight, but he didn't. He wanted the shaman to feel as scared as he had made other hunters feel. But it seemed like his efforts hadn't worked. The creature's eyes were still glowing with life. Okay then, he would put on a display of his power. It was time to show everyone what a necromancer could do. The Shadow Monarch looked around as if a wonderful meal was laid out before him. Dark smoke floated up from the bodies of the defeated orcs, as if they were waiting for Jinwoo. He told them to rise. The system sent a message saying it was trying to collect their shadows. A terrible scream filled the air. The shaman's eyes widened in shock. What is this? He couldn't finish what he was saying. He was stopped by the sight of dark hands coming up from the shadows around the tall orc bodies. Shadow extraction complete. Jinwoo smiled as the new soldiers joined his shadow army. My fighters have become undead. The shaman shook with fear. 50 warriors had died. About the same number of new soldiers appeared, wearing black armor. This meant the two sides now had an equal number of fighters. The shaman understood this human wasn't leading a typical army. They also realized how much trouble they were in. The fight between 50 soldiers and 150 high orcs was now a fair fight with 100 fighters on each side. Strong orc warriors who had fought bravely in past battles were losing their courage when they saw their friends become shadow soldiers. They made growling noises like ground growla. These warriors were usually fearless, but now they were stepping back. Their worst fear had come true, becoming an undead servant of the enemy, instead of dying bravely in battle and going to a warrior's afterlife. Jinwoo's display of strength was working as he hoped. It scared the warriors, but what about the shaman? He looked closely at the shaman's face.
Oh, good. Jinwoo smiled. Finally.
The shaman was clearly afraid. The shaman shook as he remembered the person who could control shadows made from the dead. There couldn't be two people with the same ability. That was him. That's him. But how did we end up here? As soon as the shaman realized who it was, and who they were, its mind went blank. All it felt was fear. Jinwoo was pleased. Yes, that was right. Stay right there. He was planning to scare the shaman the most, and it had worked. He turned and smiled. Then his eyes widened when he saw someone at the cave opening. Who is that? He knew her face seemed familiar, but he couldn't quite remember who she was. It took him a moment to remember her name. Hyun Chide, one of the strongest hunters in the Hunters Guild. But what was she doing here? Jinwoo was surprised to see her, but Hyun was even more shocked when she saw him, and the shadowy figures with him. Were they small monsters? Hyun first thought, that's what they were, but there were too many of them to be just small monsters. Mage hunters who could control magical creatures usually could only command one at a time. If a hunter could control two, everyone thought they were very skilled. She had never heard of anyone who could control three. But how many creatures were there? It was amazing. One person had summoned more than 100. It didn't take him much time at all. He quickly called many helpers all at once. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself. Her name was Hyun Cha, and she was one of the best hunters in Korea. She was very impressed by what he could do. There wasn't time to waste. She looked past the shadowy soldiers to the attack team. They seemed to be having problems. Some of them were sitting on the ground, as if their legs had failed them. No matter who Jinwoo was, or what he could do, helping him with the monsters was the most important thing to do. She needed to think fast and act quickly. Hyun tightened her grip on her weapon and took a step forward. Then she looked at Jinwoo. His eyes told her something important. He didn't need her help. He wanted her to stay back and watch. She didn't understand why. She knew Jinwoo was very strong, and could lead many soldiers. But there were almost as many large orcs, and even a more powerful leader among them, so it seemed like he could use help. Also, if Jinwoo was calling forth and controlling so many creatures at once, he must have very little energy left, maybe none at all. How could he manage all of this by himself? Tan was confused, but she put her weapon down anyway. It wasn't just because the only weapon she had was a pickaxe she borrowed from the digging crew. She really wanted to know what Hunter Jinwoo-sung was gonna do about the remaining orcs. She thought he had a good plan. She believed in him, even if it didn't completely make sense. She felt a little excited. That was close. Jinwoo was relieved Hyun decided to stay. This was only the start. And he didn't want to be bothered. He had allowed the leader to seriously injure Ki-hon, so he could fight all the magical creatures himself. Ki-hon never gives up, so Jinwoo had to control himself, and not attack the shaman, until Ki-hon's sword fell. He had been waiting for this chance. Ki-hon understood what was happening, and Jinwoo was happy. She figured it out so quickly. She didn't argue and stepped back. He smiled and turned around. My shadows. His voice boomed through the dungeon, and at his command, all of his soldiers got ready to fight again. For a moment, everything was quiet. Finally, Jinwoo pointed at the shaman, and spoke, breaking the silence. Go! More than 100 shadow soldiers rushed toward the scared high orc warriors. Thud, 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 the ground, the cave, and the eyes of everyone watching, shook, as the soldiers ran forward. Jinchul ran through the dungeon as quickly as he could. Huff, huff, he breathed heavily from running. He took a deep breath and stood up straight. He saw a woman with short hair standing at the entrance to the leader's hiding place. He knew who she was immediately. It was Hain Sham. Was there any other female hunter who seemed so strong and confident? He wondered why she was just standing there, and not helping with the fight. It seemed odd, so he walked toward her. He looked inside the hideout. What his soldiers wearing black armor were fighting and defeating the large orcs. Grinsa. Ga. Goo. Goo. Ga. Jinchul's ears hurt from their yells. It would have been strange if only people were fighting, but some of the soldiers were very large animals. A few were black bears that looked like they were steaming. There were also some of the large orcs wearing the black armor. It's been a while, Manager Wu. Oh, yes. It had been a long time. Do you know what those creatures are? They don't look like magical beasts. They are helpers called by that man, Hamtain said, pointing to Jinwoo who was fighting. Jinchul took off his sunglasses and watched Jinwoo fight with his soldiers. He was using 2 knives to fight through the group of orcs. The more I watch him, the more he seems like a very skilled fighter. Yet, he also seemed able to use summoning magic too. Jinchul was right. Jinwoo's mouth moved, and suddenly many more creatures appeared from the ground.
Wow!
Jinchul was very surprised. How many creatures could Jinwoo make? If this was Hunter Sung's special skill, Jinchul was amazed. Did President Go already know Jinwoo had this ability? Jinchul realized President Go was very interested in him. Hyen finally looked away from Jinwoo and asked Jinchul, "Can I ask what you are doing here, Manager Wu? Did our guild already talk to the surveillance team?" Jinchul tried to hide his surprise from Hyen. "We were close by and noticed something strange happening at this gate, so we came to help the fighting team leave," Jinchul said, looking back at Jinwoo. "But I think everything is okay now." He was seeing what Jinwoo could do for the very first time. The hunter was finishing a difficult dungeon all by himself. He didn't need any help from others. "Yes, I think it's best if we don't interfere," Hyen said. There wasn't enough space for anyone else in this battle, not even the strongest hunter. "Do you know him?" Hyen asked. Jinchul wanted to know how strong Jinwoo was, not who he was. Jinchul belonged to a group that was keeping information about Jinwoo's secret. Maybe Manager Wu knew something about him. Hagrin was right. "I know a little bit." "Who exactly is he?" Jinchul put his sunglasses back on. "I'm sorry, that's secret information." The shaman was very angry. It began with a single thought: find and attack people. But now look what was happening. Could a person really defeat an entire group of its kind? It seemed impossible. It couldn't be true. As the shaman watched its warriors fall, its eyes glowed red with anger. "These tiny creatures, I will crush them all." If its magical curses didn't work, it would have to fight them directly after making itself stronger. Song of anger, song of power, song of the huge, song of dragon flame. As it chanted the spells, the shaman grew bigger and bigger, until it was almost 10 meters tall. Energy surged through its body as it grew stronger, faster, and more confident. Soon, the shaman was pushing away the dark soldiers with its large arms. It took a deep breath, and then whoosh, the shaman breathed out a dark reddish flame. Whoosh, the fire quickly destroyed the enemies before anyone could react. No soldier who was touched by the flames survived. If they weren't completely burned, they were too injured to continue fighting, because an arm or leg had been destroyed. Another burst of fire came right after the first one. Seeing so many soldiers fall, the shaman shouted with confidence. "Do you still think I, Kargalgan, am not strong enough to fight you?" The answer came from above his head. "Yes." The shaman was surprised and quickly made a protective spell as he looked up. But Jinwoo was quicker. He punched the top of the beast's head. Boom. Crack. The shaman's head hit the ground. The impact created cracks across the cave floor. Jinwoo remembered using his fist to knock someone away before it had been against Vulcan, who was much larger than the shaman. "You have defeated the master of the dungeon." For a moment everything was quiet. Then, as soon as Jinwoo landed, he received 2 exciting messages. A notification popped up. "You have leveled up." "Yes." Jinwoo raised his fist in the air with excitement. He had become stronger after fighting while using the stealth skill, once after defeating the strong orcs in their cave, and again after beating the final boss. He had become stronger 3 times while exploring this difficult dungeon. This was better than he hoped for. He was thankful that Yunsuk had offered him another job today. Great. Jinwoo happily walked toward the boss. The shaman's body shrank back to its normal size. Jinwoo saw a large stone in the necklace around its neck, but he didn't want to take it. He had already earned enough experience. This dungeon belonged to the Hunters Guild. If he needed a special stone from a difficult dungeon, he could get one from a place he legally owned. But Jinwoo wanted something else: the dark smoke coming from the shaman's body. He gulped nervously. He remembered when he tried to take a shadow from Barca at the Red Gate and failed. But I am different now. Back then, defeating Barca was hard because he didn't have much experience. He had trouble fighting even the helpers who were skilled warriors, Igris and Iron. But he defeated the shaman without much difficulty. This was because of the week he spent inside the demon's castle. It showed that going through those hard 7 days was a good idea. Jinwoo told the swirling black smoke what to do. He stood up. A cold wind touched his face. And he knew it had worked. He had done it. A smile spread across his face. A mage wearing a hood jumped out of the darkness with a loud scream. What was happening? Jinwoo felt something strange and looked at the mage's information screen. It showed a question mark. Jinwoo had only known of 3 types of shadow soldiers before: regular, elite, and knight rank. This was the first time he had met one with the elite knight rank. He thought the soldier was even stronger than Igris and Iron, who were knight rank. This soldier's magical power was definitely more powerful than theirs. It made sense, since this shadow soldier came from a powerful enemy in an A-rank dungeon. A message popped up on his screen: please choose a name. Like before, the system wanted him to name the new soldier, since its rank was knight or higher. A name even though he couldn't see the soldier's face clearly because of the hooded robe. High orcs were known for having long fangs. Fang. Jinwoo decided. The system automatically saved the name, Fang. LV. 1 elite knight rank. The question marks on the screen were replaced with the name Fang. Considering how self-centered the shaman had been until it died, it would have been very surprised to hear its new name, but it was already gone. Jinwoo happily called his shadow soldiers back. He could now keep 13 shadows, but he had to let the rest disappear. I've done enough for today. When he jumped down from the altar smiling, many people rushed over to him, including the strike squad hunters, Hazen, and some men in black suits. There was a face he knew among the men in suits. When did Manager Wu get here? From the look on his face, Jinchul had also seen the shadow soldiers. Jinwoo, Hunter Sung, Mr. Luggage. Different people called out to Jinwoo at the same time, and they all looked at each other cautiously. Since Jinwoo didn't need to hide his powers anymore, he had enjoyed using them fully, but how could he get away from here? Jinwoo scratched his head. As he looked around at the people surrounding him, Jinchul made the first move. The other hunters were looking at each other, trying to figure out who was strongest. He walked over to stand next to Jinwoo, and showed his identification card. He told the others he was with the association's watching team. Even hunters with high rankings got a little worried when they heard about the watching team, so this was a good way to get their attention. Everyone at the Hunters Guild except for Han felt a little worried. Jinchul quickly used this to his advantage. He said the association was handling Hunter Jinwoo Sung's situation, and everything about it needed to be kept completely secret. Jinwoo thought Jinchul was a good actor. He thought Jinchul might have practiced looking and speaking this way, but he soon understood what Jinchul was trying to do. Jinchul's eyes told Jinwoo he would help him escape. Jinwoo didn't know why the surveillance team was offering to help, but he wasn't going to question it. He agreed. This is what he preferred. Jinchul's helpers understood immediately and quickly surrounded Jinwoo. They said any questions should be sent through the Hunter Association. They would then take Hunter Jinwoo Sung away. It was clear Jinchul would not allow anyone to disagree with him. His strong determination surprised the hunters, even though they wanted to talk to Jinwoo. Please come with us. The surveillance team led Jinwoo away from the other hunters. He appreciated their help, but things felt odd. Why was Jinchul helping him when he hadn't asked? Jinwoo waited until they were far enough away before asking quietly, "Why are you suddenly helping me? Are you planning to join the Hunters Guild?" Jinwoo shook his head. Jinchul quickly explained, as if he already knew Jinwoo would say no. "You just showed you have powers stronger than even the best hunters. And you did it in front of the most powerful and wealthy group in Korea. This was the best way to keep things calm. It's true that the Hunters Guild would do almost anything to get another very powerful hunter. Other top hunters might be happy about this chance, but Jinwoo would not. The Hunters Association felt the same way. The group working to keep things fair wanted to stop a certain guild from becoming too powerful. Jinwoo also wanted this same guild to leave him alone, so their goals matched up. Jinwoo would have been worried if he owed this group a favor, but it turned out both sides were helping each other. The group was making things easier for him. This lucky situation made Jinwoo smile a little. As they were about to leave the boss's hiding place, a loud voice called out, "Wait!" Jinwoo quickly turned around and saw Ki-hoon walking toward him, helped by a larger co-worker. Ki-hoon's injuries had been taken care of, but he still looked very pale from losing blood. He really shouldn't have been standing up. Still, Ki-hoon was now standing in front of Jinwoo. He lowered his head to Jinwoo. "Thank you." He spoke honestly. "We are safe because of you, Hunter Sung. I thank you for everyone in my squad." If the people watching were right, there was a good reason. Jinwoo had kept his identity a secret. Considering how strong he was, that made sense. But Jinwoo had helped Ki-hoon and his squad, even though it meant people might find out who he was. What's more, he didn't ask for anything in return. He could have asked for the remains of the magical creatures, or asked to be paid for saving them, but he simply left without saying anything. How could Ki-hoon show how much he respected him? Thank you, Ki-hoon said, feeling very emotional. He bowed low to the ground. His body really hurt, but he didn't complain.